Hi, I'm John Reeds, and I'm a researcher at the Center for Advanced Spatial Analysis here at UCL. In this case, this was a map that, that I put together with the support of Transport for London. And what this is looking at is Oyster card activity over the course of an average morning rush hour. And we're used to thinking of the tube as having a fairly fixed capacity, and for most people who are commuting, it always seems busy. But what this is really looking at is where people pile onto the tube. What are the parts where kind of the crowding is most likely, where you're really trying to get the most people through the system? And there are some real surprises in here when we start looking at origins and destinations. So coming in across the Victoria line, down through King's Cross, we really pick up a lot of people, and also these long distance flows in from the west. Whereas other ones appear to be comparatively little used, such as, for instance, some parts of the overground, although I know from experience that in a way this is a matter of scale. So simply put, the overground has less capacity at any one time, so you can't put as many people through, whereas the Victoria line, where trains come every minute, is really packed to the gills. Turning now to the bus system, here, what's been done here is that we've mapped scheduled bus routes. So now we're not looking at, this is looking at usage, and this is looking at capacity. And here, I mean, one thing you'll notice is really the area around the Strand is possibly, has by far the densest bus service of anywhere in London. And it's interesting in a system as large as London to find that really the geographic center of all of London is actually the place where you're most likely to catch a bus. So we have kind of this really dense central network, but then also some really great kind of what this map really reveals is these long distance, again, flows coming in from really quite a long way out, because this map covers a much larger area than this one. And so actually, what we also know from the Oyster card usage is that far more people in any given day use the bus than use the tube, even though it's the tube that's really the iconic transport feature of London. Turning now to the cycle hire, different scale again. And what both of these maps have in common is trying to look at, in a sense, to give people a way of understanding the intensity of flow by expanding if you will, the size of the capillaries, thinking of transportation as really the lifeblood that keeps London moving. So here, what's been done is to try to map Barclay cycle hire flows onto origins and destinations using the most probable route, where we assume that cyclists tend to stick to cycle lanes. They prefer to avoid, for instance, the worst parts of Euston Road and so on. This picks up some of these big axes that people are aware of. One is around kind of this sort of little network that exists around Hyde Park, where people want to get across the park quickly. The other big ones are down towards Waterloo and sort of Liverpool Street Bank area, which really suggests that over in this part, we're talking about a very strong association with commuter flows, whereas over this area, it's a little harder to know quite what the sources of that are, other than that people really like to cycle through the park. Turning finally to, this is origin destination traffic from Addison Lee. So here we're taking the most likely routes and again putting them onto which roads will get you there fastest based on sort of traffic, and this is partly also based on GPS data from the cars. So this one is really picking out the main arterial flow sort of roads within London. So in a lot of ways, it becomes almost the opposite of this one if you assume that cyclists, for instance, don't want to cycle along Euston Road, but cars very much, that's by far the best way to get east-west, unless you go down along the embankment. So really, putting these all together, it's 4 different views of London's transportation system, 4 different ways of thinking about how you get around. But most importantly, it also gives you this sense of where, kind of where the pinch points are, where the opportunities are, and kind of where the people are really.